Alright, I'm going to make pizza. I'm starting out making a dough with 350 milliliters of water, and that's about 2 tablespoons of fresh honey in there, local organic honey, and I'm going to nuke it 10 seconds at a time until it's about 40 degrees Celsius. So I think I got it about 40 there. Let's just check. Okay. Yeah, that's about 40 degrees. I'll give it a slightly better stir to get all that honey dissolved in, and then we'll add the yeast. Looking pretty dissolved right there. It's turbid, of course, from the honey, but I can see to the bottom of the glass. Alright, there we have some yeast that I got in a jar that I normally keep in the fridge. And it's just shy of a tablespoon. It's 1.5 teaspoons actually, so about 2/3 of a tablespoon is good enough. And let me just sprinkle that on top. I'll leave that for a few minutes, and then I will give it a good stir in. So it's about 3 minutes later, not much going on the top. You can see a ring around the outside as it's starting to, the moisture starting to move in. And down the side you can see little bits of yeast falling down, coming from the bottom as they get saturated and falling to the bottom. The more that happens, the more the top will saturate. You could stir it in right now if you want it to, it doesn't really matter. Or you could just leave it and watch it and let the kids watch it or whatever. Okay, we're at 6 minutes now. You can see there's a considerable amount of activity with yeast falling down from above. And from the top down you can see the ring of wetness has moved in further, although it's still fairly far out. But things should start happening pretty quickly now. Here it is 9 minutes in. It's not as significant of a difference as I had thought, but it's still progressed along. The ring's moved in a bit further. Stuff is really active up and down here. You can see the CO2 already starting and pulling stuff up from the bottom. So the yeast is going. I would expect within perhaps 10 minutes I'll have a good head of foam on here. And so I won't report back again until I have a good head of foam, and then at that point I'll mention what time it was. Okay, it's now 15 minutes. There's no big dramatic difference. So I'm going to stir it in. Let's see how that goes. Stir it all in. Get that stuff off the spoon there. And 1 teaspoon of salt. My recipe calls for 1.5, the person I got it off of, but I only used 1. So flour is 600 grams. If you don't have a scale, that's about 3 cups and 3 tablespoons in addition to that. And I usually use 2 cups whole wheat, 1 cup either oat flour or regular flour, and the 3 tablespoons of gluten flour, but you can use any combination you want. So it's 600 grams or 3 cups plus 3 tablespoons of flour. 1 of gluten flour. 2. Alright, this goes, whoops, this goes in there. There, helps if we get it around the right way. Close that down again. Choose my bread select of just the dough cycle, 1 minute 20. Start. Alright, so we have our dough here. The bread machine is on the rise cycle now. It's a bit gummy. It would have been better to measure that by weight. I like to do this dough makes either 3 thin crust or 2 regular crust, and I'm going to do 2 regular crust. I'm going to toss that back in for the rise cycle into the bread machine. Keep it there. Now for this guy, basically all you do is you put down a little bit of flour like this. Put down a little bit of flour and spread that out a little bit. Put down some flour on top. Hold it there. Yeah. Put that on top. And just keep it rolling. Try to keep it round, basically. Takes some practice to learn where you got to roll in order to keep it roughly round. But this is a good thing to practice. There. Keep it going. Just going to keep that rolling.